Hello, welcome back to my channel. So today I want to do a video comparing and contrasting extroverted thinking and introverted feeling, or abbreviated TE and FI. So these are the functions valued by the TJ types and the FP types in the Myers-Briggs system. So if you value one of these functions, you value them both. If you don't value one of these functions, you don't value either of them in your top 4, but you have them in your total 8. So if you don't know what a cognitive function is, I will have a playlist linked above, Myers-Briggs 101. It makes Myers-Briggs so much more interesting in my opinion. So this video is going to rely pretty heavily on my previous series where I did deep dives going into Carl Jung and van der Hoop's writing about each of these functions. Definitely check those videos out if you're interested in what the context of some of these quotes are. As well as, I also have personality type playlists in the description, so if you want to know every video that I have that could be relevant to an INFJ, for example, those will be linked in the description as well. So I want to get into the key words. So in Carl Jung's writing and van der Hoop's writing, there were certain words that came up over and over and over again. For TE, that word was system, and for FI, that word was moral or misunderstood. So for FI, kind of a caveat, FI and SI were both this way, where there wasn't one word that stood out. For FI, the number one word that stood out was misunderstood, but I don't feel like that accurately is even close to approximating what the function is. I mean, no single word can do so, but misunderstood is not even getting close. So the word I'm going to take more so is the word moral, because that was probably the second most commonly used word. A system is a set of things working together as parts of a mechanism or an interconnecting network. Moral means concerned with the principles of right and wrong behavior and the goodness or badness of human character. So I'll kind of get into a metaphor for these in a moment, but before I do, I want to pay some honor to the word misunderstood because it just was used so commonly that I feel like I need to honor it in some way. So misunderstood meaning incorrectly interpreted or understood. And in the Myers-Briggs community, I see a lot of misunderstandings with introverted feeling. So a couple that I see, what introverted feeling is not, but they could overlap in the same person, is it is not depression, anxiety, or loneliness. These are things that are they can be part of the human experience. Everyone can experience depression, anxiety, or loneliness. And one word that came up in the introverted feeling section was melancholia, but it was not the pervasive entire thing of the section, but it was part of it. And introverted feeling is not limited to feelings and emotions. It's a lot more about ethics and morals and convictions. While introverted feeling may contribute to melancholia, bad life experiences could also contribute to melancholia. So just because you have some melancholia or depression or loneliness doesn't mean that the root cause of it was FI. I see a lot of people mistyping just because they have some mental health issues. Another thing that FI is not is frequent, big, emotionally expressive scenes. There were many, many quotes that said repeatedly, FI has a lot of reserve and repose. Still waters run deep. That they are not very emotionally expressive, and it said FE will express an emotion and then it can kind of like wrap up that emotion, but FI will tend to not express the emotion, and you can't really read their face, and then that emotion just kind of burrows deeper and deeper. You see these big unhealthy scenes from people that don't have a very good control of their emotions, and that's not what introverted feeling is. Introverted feelers, that's the water they swim in, like FI DOMs, so they've got the control over it. You're not seeing tantrums. That would be an infantile relationship with your emotions, which introverted feelers, like FI DOMs, do not have. And then the last thing that I see sometimes is social justice warrior, and what I mean by that is kind of this aggressiveness in political conduct. So, like I said, there's a lot of reserve and repose, and there were a lot of quotes about how they don't desire to change anyone. TI and FI both say, you know what, I have my own values and beliefs, and you are the final decider on your own values and beliefs, just like I am for myself, and we don't need to change in each other. So a lot of quotes with FI not desiring to change each other. Now TE and FE, on the other hand, are kind of the regulating functions and regulating group behavior. So what I've been starting to do is getting into kind of a metaphor for the types, and for FI and TI, the metaphor was purifying fire of justification. So the metaphor for TE and FI has to do with a ship. And I'll go to the next slide in a moment because there are pictures on the slide. Garrett, my husband, he's an ISFP, he's a censor. He recommended that maybe I should have pictures with my metaphors. He really liked that. So the TE part of the ship metaphor is the ship's captain. And so I went on Wikipedia and I just copied and pasted what are a ship captain's duties. So what I mean by a ship captain, this is what they're doing. A ship's captain is a high-grade licensed mariner who holds ultimate command and responsibility of a merchant vessel. The captain is responsible for the safe and efficient operation of the ship, cargo operations, navigation, crew management, and legal compliance, and for the persons and cargo on board. So when you think about TE being a system, an external system, a lot of times that can be managing logistics, people, supplies, external logical things, especially things that will involve governance and managing things. Commanding, efficient, a lot of external moving pieces to manage, timetables, schedules, Could be money management, navigation, leadership of different people. These are things that I think TE is particularly skilled in, is this external system. For introverted feeling, to go along with this ship metaphor, it is kind of this moral compass and kind of always pointing toward moral north. How far are we from being moral? And why would we ever want to, if we get a little off, that lands you in a place you do not want to be in. So we got to be completely on moral north. So I put the definition for a compass here, and then I inserted the word moral. So a moral compass is an instrument containing a magnetized pointer which shows the direction of magnetic north, or true moral north, and bearings from it. So getting into the symmetry, extroverted thinking is an external order of systems. Introverted feeling is an internal order of values. TE knowing how to order systems and arrange systems and logistics, and part of that can be metrics for TE, and part of that can be morals for FI, and I like the two M words, metrics versus morals. So metrics could be, how much money did we make quarter 2? What's our quarterly 3 goal? There's a lot of quotes about setting a goal and putting a lot of systematic effort to achieving it on schedule. So when you think about SMART goals, that probably was a TE user who invented that concept. How do we achieve this on schedule? Is this reasonable? Is this measurable? How are we going to measure this goal? And then FI having a lot of internal order of its values. What does it prioritize morally, and how does it create fine distinctions morally? Extroverted thinking wants to bring the totality of its activities in harmony with intellectual end. Introverted feeling wants to bring the totality of its being in harmony with right and wrong ideals. So TE is saying, this is the most efficient way to reach this goal, and I'm going to bring all of my activities in harmony with that. Both T and FI kind of have these standards for themselves where they have this, this ideal being this intellectual end or the right and wrong ideals, and the activities need to be in alignment with that. They cannot just talk the talk, they have to walk the walk. Extroverted thinking is an external extensity of utility. Introverted feeling is an inner intensity of feeling. So external extensity of utility, so external meaning like things outside the self. Extensity means to extend or construct. And then utility meaning, is this useful to me or is this not useful to me? So it's constantly trying to construct things that are useful externally. So this could be a business, this could be a thought system, this could be leading other people, but externally trying to construct things and not trying to destruct or tear down or critique ideas, but saying what's useful to me, filtering in what's useful, what's not useful, and then all those things that I've gathered that I've found are useful, we're going to construct something externally. Introverted feeling is an inner intensity of feeling. So intensity meaning getting deep and nuanced and complex with all of the different fine shades of meaning in their values, in their convictions, in their morals, and there's high standards for themselves and not letting themselves off the hook morally. So TE is saying, is this useful to other people? Am I building something that's useful to other people externally? And introverted feeling is saying, does this make sense to me and my values? There was a quote about extroverted thinking can appear objective, having no opinion of their own. Introverted feeling is subjective, having strong inner feeling conviction. So in the context of personality, objective and subjective have very specific meanings. So they basically just mean external or internal. So extroverted thinkers can appear objective, meaning external, having no opinion of their own. So they take these opinions and they have them externally, and they're just weighing these opinions they got externally, and it can kind of appear that they have no opinion of their own. When it, and this is just TE in isolation with no other functions. Introverted feeling, very subjective, so turning internally and having a strong inner feeling conviction. So they do not appear as if they have no opinion of their own. Introverted feeling has a strong inner feeling conviction. Introverted thinking and both introverted feeling strongly feel that they're right, and they have a strong stubbornness and inner assuredness. Whereas extroverted thinking and extroverted feeling, they're just saying, what works best for the group. I don't care what I personally think is the best, but what has the most utility for the group, and that's what we're going to use. Extroverted thinking wants to control the world. From a young age, they wanted to be an authority, so that they like to govern. And introverted feeling, they'll shrink from the brutal world. So it's definitely this, maybe both sees that there's something that's not quite right with the world, let's say, but it's definitely a different response to it. So extroverted thinking sees hey, maybe the world needs more organization, I'm going to go run it. Introverted feeling says, oh, this world is so brutal and no one's morals are right, and so it shrinks into the self and processes that and kind of finding the nuance and the complexity within itself. So extroverted thinking, there were a lot of quotes about persistence. The word persistence was used specifically. There were quotes like, set a goal and put a lot of systematic effort in achieving it on schedule, very determined. When they want to do something, it gets done, to the point where it's almost machine-like. There were quotes about them being cold. And so when I say machine-like, I mean kind of in the cold way, the lacking human warmth, like in that type of way, machine-like persistence, and kind of expecting that level from themselves. They kind of expect this machine-like persistence of others, and they expect that from themselves sometimes. Introverted feelings activity can suffer due to their humanity. You can't expect, people, we are not a machine, so there's some humanity involved. There will be emotions involved, there will be feelings involved, convictions, morals, and it's very difficult. Like, how can we just keep on going with things when a lot of these things aren't right and they're not resolved, and it creates a lot of dissonance within the self. Extroverted thinking likes to do what works. Introverted feelings says do what you like, do what you love. So extroverted thinking, it'll just do what works, regardless of its own opinion. It's just what's going to work for other people. And sometimes it says, like, hey, here's this business, this could work, okay, I can see here's the goal, let's put a lot of energy into this and efficiency into this, and then you reach the goal and then you say, did I want this in the first place? And that can be the issue sometimes with extroverted thinkers. They get kind of this sadness after they reach the goal because maybe they realize, oh, I didn't actually really want this thing wasn't actually really going to make me happy. So doing what works at the expense of knowing what you like sometimes. Introverted feeling, their kind of motto is do what you like, and they know what they like, they know what they value, they know what goes along with their morals, what type of life they would like to be living, but sometimes disconnected from what works. It's the opposite problem of extroverted thinking. So like my husband Garrett, he really likes music, and so his kind of ethic's like, I only want to play music for a job. But sometimes having a hard time understanding what's going to work to get me there. TE has a desire to govern and control. FI has no desire to change or affect anyone. And these were both quotes from the text, either Carl Jung or Vanderhoop. And it talks about, the difference with how they perceive their relationship and their boundaries and permission with other people. Both of the extroverted judging functions, TE and FE, are kind of these mobilizing and regulating functions, kind of trying to get the group going in a certain direction and doing a certain thing. Introverted feeling and introverted thinking both have very good independence and both say, like, I'm in charge of myself and my beliefs, you're in charge of yourself and your beliefs, and that's totally fine that they're different. So definitely very different in their relation to other people. And then I want to get into, these are the two metaphors that were used. I believe these were in Vanderhoop's section. So the metaphor for TE is their business-like outlook and their principles can become like straitjackets, just these like prison jackets, so constraining and holding you in, there's no freedom type thing. The metaphor for introverted feeling was sensitive as the mimosa plant, so very sensitive to, heat or the appropriate amount of water. And so then in all these, I wanted to do a side-by-side comparison. Oh, I think my font's not the same size. You can see that I got further and further along. I started adding more words. There's a lot more words on the FI side than the TE side because I started with the TE side, and then I would just get more and more involved as the series went on. I tend to do that. TE and FI are opposites in the way that like the North Pole and the South Pole are opposites. They're within the same realm. They're both, in the case of this metaphor, they're both poles on the earth or whatever, but they're on the extremes of it. They're not as different maybe as you could possibly get, like the North Pole and orange juice or something. They're not even within the same realm. But so they're opposites within the same realm, which is why they're called polarities. So they're in polarity with each other, like North Pole and South Pole. Within the same spectrum, they're at the extremes of that spectrum, that one field. So yeah, in the description box, I will have linked the deep dives on both of these functions, TE and FI, as well as those personality playlists. So if you would like to check any of those out, go ahead and click the link on the description. Otherwise, you can click on this end screen that's about to pop up. So yeah, thanks so much for watching. Bye.